So I made it to, at least I could show the Alamo in the back. Say, John, you seem to be more upset. There's the Alamo and the Space Needle over there. Alamo Dome. Okay, at least you got it. John, you prayed for the CCPD this morning. I do that prayer every Monday and Friday. That particular one that you're included in. You know, 2 days ago, a tragic event occurred, and I forget the state now, I saw it in the news. A 22-year-old rookie cop was shot and killed, which is sad. It's tragic. I think he was 22. And across the country, these last few years, there's been a lot of problems with shootings and things, both minorities being shot and then that making it to the news. And people ask, how do we improve all that? We also had in Corpus Christi 2 cases, but one court case where somebody shot at an officer. Not the other one that I believe the guy shouldn't have been found guilty. He wasn't. I forget his name. That was the flash bomb incident. But you had a couple of others where they claimed self-defense. One got off on the self-defense. He said he didn't know there were cops, but the prosecutor and all, the DA, I think Skirk at the time, they still tried him. The other one, of course, got convicted. As a matter of fact, the other one, I think, was a boy that went to school with my daughter. Nick Jimenez, the editor or one of the writers for the Polar Times, I remember he wrote a little thing about that and said, you know, our paper's fairly good, but he said, we cannot have, you know, people using self-defense cases if they're using self-defense against officers. Now, I'm sure Mr. Jimenez has no idea about all of these other types of cases. And the thing that does get me outraged is that citizens were targeted for many, many, many years. These were not arrests. These were not, these were targetings. These were targeted beatings, assaults, criminal activity. And the public in general has no idea that this goes on. I know Markle knows, because he's a hometown guy, and that's why you've seen me critical of Markle. Because he knows. He knows. And oftentimes in departments, you know, you got a few bad guys that, oh, quote, he did that again. Beat up somebody or planted his annex. And even when I wrote on some of these issues, I actually wrote complaining about these things to the district attorney, not knowing his name was Mark Skirk at the time. I said, look, we have real crimes, and Skirk and Markle are friends, buddies. And then it came out in many court proceedings that Skirk was basically corrupt. So now I realize they probably got my letters and thought, oh, you know, here's a letter, somebody's complaining about real crimes, Markle, against your department. And who knows, maybe they laughed, said, now we got to go coerce the medical examiner to change his testimony in the Hayden case or something like that, those that are familiar. So I realized you have deep-seated problems within Corpus Christi. And I don't believe Markle has any intention on changing any of that, unless it got to a point where, you know, the Corpus caller did a whole thing on it, and then you interviewed some of the people that were indeed felonies committed against by cops. But they are so intimidated. You don't understand. On the street, look, some of my friends that had backgrounds, criminal backgrounds, they're intimidated because when it's blatant like it was for so many years, they realize, wow. So there's a huge problem. And some say, oh, John, he's pushed to the edge. When you target somebody's family, I wonder if they do that in order to push you to the edge. Just the very fact that a few months ago, I've mentioned this a few times, Clara Kay will testify to it, local cops in Flower Bluff, I don't know who they were, but they told some of my street friends to watch out for me because I carry a gun, which was a lie. And then, of course, why are you in San Antonio, John? Well, because the cops told me last week, watch out for James Pope, a.k.a. Caveman Jammer. He's dangerous, so I have to be up here. Do I fear Mr. Pope? I'll tell you, do I fear the cops? The intimidation against your family, the open brazenness of felonies that you guys have committed. Some have committed. It shows me that in that element of the corruption in your department, Markle, and you know the names I gave you, and you know that those stories are true, and you know you have many, many more that the public is not aware of. And police departments are different than fire departments in this sense. We had firefighters that maybe were not up to the job. And yes, that could be a problem. And some that were there for many years eventually realized that wasn't cut out for them. But when you have cops that commit crimes, and then you say, we know he's problematic, but the crimes included targeting, assaulting, harassment things, beatings, putting people in prison, Jesse, my friend. And you know that that's a history with certain officers. That's a whole nother standard, sir. Do you understand that? If a firefighter was not up to the job, and maybe we let him stay on the job or put him in a different position, things like that, okay, they could get by. That's a whole nother story, though. And eventually those guys would be moved on. But that's different than an officer who commits crimes, open and brazen crimes, because many of those victims are so intimidated, and it was multiple repeat. And I think you probably let some of those guys stay because you rose up the ranks with them. You should resign, sir. You should immediately resign. You should find some excuse, but you're so arrogant. Because when I saw you, and I think it was Mr. Hooper, another officer who represents in the media, when the Cola Times and Libby Abbott and them tried to get you to make changes, I saw a lot of arrogance in the initial stages of that. So I believe you feel like you're dug in there in South Texas. And I really believe we need a federal criminal investigation on the civil rights abuses. I don't want to speak to you guys, but if the federal authorities, which I've been in contact with, I'll talk to them. And I've given names and places and dates. But I don't believe, I really truly don't believe you're concerned with any of that being exposed. And I believe what you did in my residence in Turtle Cove, I believe you silenced them. Because that little incident scared, some of my neighbors because they felt like, man, we got targeted. And you never complained again about the drug trafficking in the park and all. Those neighbors, they never said nothing again. I find that also deplorable how you dealt with that. Then you gave the image to them later. Oh, he's nice, he talked to us. Like it was a mistake. There was no mistake in that. You gave the excuse that you put code violations on the fence, because if it was 1 inch too high, by lowering it the inch, it would cut down on crime. No, you got tired of people complaining is what you did. And that's how you dealt with it. You dealt with it, making it look like, so I believe you should immediately resign. And you would never want any of these assaults and all these felonies made public, because you rose up the ranks with these officers that have done that. You know them, your neighbors, because we all happen to live in Florida, all of us. The ones that did this, the ones, the chief lives where I live in the same area. And even some of the victims did favors to cover up some of these crimes, because they thought that's the way it is, not realizing no. And for all the citizens in Corpus, the amount of money that you're paying for that, right? Let's take this one. The amount of money that you pay for that, you should be concerned just for that. And I know some of you don't like me reporting this stuff. Say it gives us a bad name. If the name has been earned, then you say, let's change the bad name. You say, but John, we're trying with the new guys, and I'll admit, some of the cops I spoke to the last month that I've been back, some of them, look, I can see they're trying to be nice, and they're told, by the officers, look, we want to develop rapport. But the mistake Markle makes is he lets all that other stuff stay under the rug. And even if you managed to tell officers, look, don't assault anymore, don't plan Xanax anymore, don't do this, the citizens that were victimized by your officers, those that did those things, they still live. They're still in the public. And they have like a fear, just like a domestic violence case. Sometimes the women drop the charge against, but they still have a fear. And the fact that you have made them live with that dynamic, sir, you should resign today. The way you have covered that up is deplorable, sir. And the public needs to know. The public needs to know that that stuff has indeed gone on. And they need to know that you were aware of that. Because there's no way, after how many years you've been on that department, 30. So we need an outside chief to come in. Because sadly, I don't know if Markle himself was ever involved in the criminal stuff, but I guarantee you he knows the guys that were. And there's a hesitancy to deal with it and weed it out, because if the feds do that investigation, then those that were in charge that covered it up can be held criminally liable. And the last thing cops want is themselves to be before the law. That's the last thing. I've had many of my street friends, Mr. Frank Garcia, who was executed. I believe Frank was from San Antonio, that case. And he not only faced the crime that he committed. You say, but that was a murder. Of course it was. There have been cops that have murdered. Look, there was somebody killed in front of Paris Apartments. Everybody said he was choked to death again and the medical examiner said, I think he died of asthma. So that would be a murder that people got away with. And some of these guys could have got off easy if they took their retirements. Not only do they not take their retirements, or not only give an account, they stay on the job. And so many of the public in these particular cases, they live in fear, because they know, man, if an officer's having a bad day, I might get the shit beat out of me, or I might get planted Xanax. So it's deplorable the way you have run that department, sir. We call it for your immediate resignation.